Hi everyone, it's David here with a word from our sponsors HyperX. HyperX are makers of premium gaming peripherals and they're offering UK-based customers 20% off their entire full-price gaming headset range throughout May. T&Cs apply. Head on over to uk.hyperx, that's hyperx.com, to read the T&Cs and use the discount code Rangers once at the checkout. These are superb. I've been using the headset now for a couple of weeks and it is absolutely fantastic. The mic is brilliant, the immersion is fantastic, and also the noise cancellation is superb. So if you want to get into your own world when you're gaming, or even just when you're doing calls, we live in a Zoom world these days, then this is very much for you. So go to HyperX for it. It's uk.hyperx.com, discount code Rangers once at the checkout, and you will save 20%, and trust me, you will thank me when it happens. In terms of the terms and conditions, offer is subject to availability, no minimum spend required. During May 2021, the code can only be used once, can't be used in conjunction with any other HyperX offer, and is not transferable. Offer is subject to change or withdrawal without notice. Free standard delivery to UK addresses for orders of £79 or more. If you return any headsets purchased with the code, you will receive a refund of the discounted price you paid for the returned headsets. So welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast. My name's David Edgar. I'm your host as always. And joining me this week is, first of all, the splendid Mr. Ian Hogg.
It's a pleasure to be back, mate. It's a very champion feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And people aren't taking it well, which we'll discuss with you. And, of course, with our other guest, big, suave, sexy Andy McGowan.
Hello, David. Hello, Ian. I feel like bursting into song every minute, every day.
I heard you were so happy that you allowed people to sing on the bus on Saturday.
There was no bus. There's a COVID pandemic, David.
Of course, yes. A very intelligent COVID pandemic that can tell the difference between gatherings. It can tell what one's a football one and what one's a political one. It's an incredibly intelligent virus, COVID. I think we underrate that. But before we get on to what was a wonderful day on Saturday, we have to talk about the madness, the fever, which has gripped parts of Scotland with regards to Rangers' success this season, because that's what it is. I mean, what it boils down to, they really just cannot deal with this. And last night, a doctored TikTok video appeared by a guy called Wully Wanker. I'm not making that up, who doesn't follow anyone and had only bots as followers, in which Rangers players were singing Sweet Caroline, and some add-ons had been very much added by him. And, of course, Celtic fans put the video out. Rangers fans put the original video out. It was quite clear it was nonsense. But then today it started being retweeted by some prominent figures, including James Dornan, the SNP MSP for Glasgow Cathcart. Then, staggeringly, Police Scotland tweeted that they were investigating this alleged sectarian video. The Justice Minister, Humza Yousaf, commented on this, saying that if this is true, and I stress if, Rangers should sack the players involved, which, talk about prejudging something. And Rangers have had to issue a statement saying that not only is it not true, and it's quite clear that it's an orchestrated process, but that they are looking at their legal options. Andy, this is nuts. I mean, this is crazy that you have an MSP and you have a Justice Minister, a government minister, getting involved with a video they know is false to try and discredit and throw muck at Rangers players in the hope that some sticks.
We're really through the looking glass here. I mean, I thought nothing could surprise me with the political element that generally don't like Rangers. I mean, we know that. We know why. Because what we represent, and it's not as if they didn't have things that they could attack us for this weekend, but to actually run with this and kind of suggest that there might even be a kernel of truth in it is so ridiculously kind of maniacally, it's just beyond the pale. Humza Yousaf, he just doesn't have any kind of filter at all. His self-importance is off the scale. He tweets as he talks. He's worse than Trump in terms of tweeting, as far as I'm concerned, for commentary. A politician of his status should not be tweeting as he does. But that one was it was hilarious, but it's probably serious because it's now versed into mudslinging, because there will be people who are either half-wits or are naive and not actually in tune with how the mad world of Scottish football works. They might think that there's something in it. And it's kind of guilty by association that it can even be considered that this was a possibility when half the team, bless herself, are on the park. And that, for all we know, Stephen Gerrard's a Roman Catholic. I don't know. Do you? Who cares? The only people that care about the religious element now and keep making a thing of it in relation to Rangers Football Club are people like him. I can't. It's just beyond belief to me. It's ridiculous, but serious.
It would take seconds. It did take seconds to prove the veracity of this video, Ian. Why is this a police matter being commented on by the Scottish Government?
I can only give you my opinion, David, and I'll make sure it's very measured. First and foremost, right, this is orchestrated. I think that's fairly obvious. It's being orchestrated by those who want to doctor it to make it look sectarian, to then be offended by it. And I've just left a pause there for effect. It is nutty. Then it hits prominent figures in Scottish Government. Then it hits Police Scotland. No doubt egged on by the Justice Minister.
I've got absolutely no doubt at all that because it was too quick, too obvious, too coordinated. It's quite clear that they were told to put that out. Because, rank and file coppers are not going to be happy about this because it's going to cost them a lot of respect at a time when they could really do without that.
Wholly agree. And interestingly, the wording that's used all the way through all the various tweets is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Equals orchestrated.
Apparently,
of course. What I will say when it comes to Humza Yousaf, he's exceptionally selective, David. He quickly wades in today. Let's forget for a second about innocence until proven guilty. It's out there for a reason, and it's out there for me because it's the team that he doesn't support. It's because we've won the league, and it's because I suspect in his eyes we're a very unionist support, union flag waving and all the rest of it, and it breaks everything that he stands for. The selective nature of it, look at how fast he wades into that. Yet we've had the probably the biggest scandal in sport, certainly in the UK, over the last 40 years, and Humza Yousaf not only refuses to comment, but actively ignores the families and the victims, as does the Scottish Government. There's a comparison for you, and it's ugly. So it's very much orchestrated. Why is it happening? It's because we've won the league, and there's a massive element, David, of we talk about COVID not being selective. COVID doesn't go to sleep just because it's pro-Palestinian or pro-whatever. Doesn't matter. We weren't meant to get together. It's cool for everyone else. Rangers have been asked...
It's not gatherings they're bothered about, it's who's gathering. And that was quite apparent. Similarly, I spoke about this last week, that they knew what was going to happen. They were counting on it. Everything was written. They had their arguments ready to go. They had their faux offence ready to go. We see staged pictures of apparently people outside having their lives turned upside down by people having a party in a square, which is fairly easy to avoid. Now, Andy, obviously on Saturday night there were some bangers having a fight at the end of it. I've never been to a place where alcohol in Scotland is consumed all day that doesn't end up in a fight, be it a music festival, gigs, whatever, even just days in the park, even just days on Troon Beach, that end up, if Scottish people get together and drink for 12 hours, it usually ends in a rammy. But you would have thought that it was the fall of Rome from some of the comments, as opposed to some bangers had a fight, Sauchiehall Street on a Saturday night style, and yet the amount of knickers that were pished and the amount of pearls that were clutched was, I mean, it was funny, but it was also sinister, and we see what the next step in it is. They know that they can't do anything to the club. They really want to, but they can't. So they're trying to engineer situations here, literally make something up, literally doctor a video and then press as if it's a real thing to try and soften it for taking legal action against the club.
The whole there's a lot to unpack in it, because the scenes at the end are totally out of order, as you've said. But this, and I make this very clear, and I make no apologies for saying it, this is not a Rangers problem. This is something that we saw 2 years ago when Celtic attempted an open-top bus parade, which was abandoned because of the issues it was causing before they even got near the main thoroughfare. Liverpool had it when they won the league. Very, very similar situation. And I had sympathy to a point for the police, because it was a pretty hard thing to police to a point. But I do think that if they've got a dispersal order at their provision or disposal, they could have used that or signposted it a lot earlier, because there was nothing more certain than something happening by that time of night, just as you say, because of the amount of alcohol. And I think there's a culture thing as well, that folk kind of is an elephant in the room. There's a massive cocaine use in society. It's prevalent amongst people of that age group. I think it makes things worse than maybe even back in Manchester. And I saw it happening. I didn't feel one bit of guilt, because it's not me. These people don't represent Rangers, because by and large, we have, the three of us talking here, have a very good sense of being at football matches, football crowds, and the Rangers support, and I mean the real Rangers support at 10 matches, have a huge body of evidence now that we can go all over Europe, and we actually have a sense of savvy, a collective savvy, which is an extremely rare thing amongst football supports. And we've been in situations where we've been tested and passed with flying colours in every sense. And so the reason that happened this Saturday night for me is dead simple. You've got an unticketed event, costs nothing to attend it. You've got every nominal Rangers supporter within a 100-mile radius trying to get there. It's an excuse for a piss-up. And the people that besmirched the name, to use the phrase that was used, probably have never been attended a Rangers match day in long and weary. So I'm not comfortable at hand, but I'm comfortable that this isn't a Rangers support issue. I'm comfortable, I know that this is a societal issue. And as you said, Davey, you take any music festival, you take any large gathering of that demographic or social class, without sounding like a snob, you're going to have issues that need to be managed. What the police did that day, I don't know if it's right or wrong. There seems to be a bit of a softly approach nowadays. They let things happen, and they let the CCTV mobile phone footage act as the method of retribution. I don't think that's right. I'm still old-fashioned, bring back the birch. I don't think we should be allowing things to happen in the moment, whether that causes issues or not. Good policing can do that. So no, it's going to, the reaction is the issue, because for 10 years roughly, or for the whole time we've been doing the divisions and winning fuck all and being the laughing stock, it wasn't really an issue. Everything passed away. Nobody bothered with us. Now that we're back and we're a threat to the rest of Scottish football, and we actually are back to where we belong and filling places with Union Jacks and stuff that don't sit well with the political elite at this moment in time, it's a football to be kicked, and they are kicking it as hard as they can.
Ian, Andy makes a lot of good points there, I think, and quite a sensible sense seems to have gone out the window in Scotland this week, particularly when it comes to one particular group of people who it is easy to dehumanise and other, and we've seen that a lot with Rangers fans over the the last few years. But one of the things that struck me is, okay, well, what do you want to do about it? Because you say, right, okay, the club should condemn it. Okay, they put out a statement doing that. The club should take away their season tickets. Well, they will do if they have them, and that's another thing. These might not be people who regularly attend games. So then how the club are meant to police them in a different area, I'm not quite sure. Are the club supposed to build a police force that are going to do that? That's kind of why we have a police force. Then you get stuff like other Rangers fans should speak out against it. Well, sure, right. Don't get pissed and blue or somebody. I think that kind of goes without saying. But, we understand that the reason we have a police force is that sometimes people do things they're not supposed to. That's sort of, life. It's a shame, but it happens. I'm not quite sure what the end game is, because it's, well, what do you actually want to do? It's your job. You're the authorities. You're supposed to deal with this. And as Andy says, you've got a lot of youngsters there who, to be honest, I've only known an SNP government in Scotland. They've had plenty of time to work on this.
Yeah, and you look at, without indulging David in whataboutery, I'm just going to give some specific examples that ended the same way, but haven't been as newsworthy, and they haven't been attacked by the cops, nor the government, nor the rest of it. Scotland went down to London, you'll recall, in 2013, I think it was, left Trafalgar Square in exactly the same mess as George Square. Guess what? By the end of the night, drunken bams were battering lumps out of each other. A real minority, less than 1%, praised in all corners. Andy's mentioned 2 years ago with Celtic. Last year it happened during lockdown. Never ever get this level of printed pages. Bottom line, David, is folk were always going to get together. It wasn't exactly a secret. It wasn't. It was planned, right? And the plans are online. They're all over socials and all the rest of it. Now, for me, the council, the government, the cops could have stopped it or limited it. And it's back to what you were saying earlier, Andy. They could have blocked off Ibrox probably a bit wider. They could have blocked off routes to George Square. They chose not to. They didn't disperse people. They chose not to. And however many people there were, let's call it 15,000 folk, and 100 people max end up having a rammy. Pissed up bams, let's face it, fighting in Glasgow city centre on a Saturday night, David, colour me shocked, right? But the response from everyone, like I said earlier, has been inevitable. From Scottish Government down, going after folk waving union flags. The Tims are tut-tutting, they're taking the moral high ground, despite, like I say, doing exactly the same thing. And funnily enough, Scottish Government not going after them. I don't think they wanted to lose votes. Put it this way, David, if we're getting the big, what can Rangers do? Well, I await Nicola Sturgeon asking Kasabian to take on the mental drug and drink problem that Scotland has, because a few Neds end up fighting at tea in the park, because that's what this is. It's exactly the same.
No, I totally agree with that. And all I can say is, when this is, which it should have been done already, incidentally, it was done before an investigation was announced. Rangers should be demanding resignations. Rangers should be demanding public apologies. And if they're not forthcoming, they should sue the arse off the people involved. That this was disgraceful, and this was, without a doubt, a premeditated, coordinated attack to try and cause trouble for a private business in Scotland that came from the authorities in Scotland. It's unjustifiable. It verges on the sinister, and it's not something that I think that the club should put up with. Moving on then, Andy, it was a hell of a day though, and we won the league, of course, back in 2011, I think, and we did win it in 2011 there, but I was trying to just illustrate we won it months and months and months ago, but we were all looking forward to this day. Now, there was a football match, and fair play to Rangers, because it would have been easy to overlook that. Manager named a strong team. He didn't really have many options, because I think it's fair to say the squad's down to the bare bones. But the team in the first half in particular played some pretty wonderful stuff. Ryan Kent and Joe Aribo, I thought at times were wizards. Got 2 goals. Then in the second half, I think, began to look ahead to the presentation. We're very lucky not to concede a goal, but even so, rallied, added in 2 more. And that then, our team, and let's not lose focus on that, our team has now won 32 games out of 38, drawn 6, hasn't lost, is invincible in the league. At Ibrox, it won every single game, only conceding 4 goals. This is a truly remarkable league season. Only 13 goals conceded, a new record. 27 clean sheets, a new record. All over the place, Rangers. This Rangers team is as dominant a league side as it reached 102 points as we've ever seen playing in the famous red, white and blue.
Well, I never wanted a season to finish, I'll be honest with you. We need to savour it. I don't say it lightly. I think this is the best Rangers team I've ever seen. I'm 44. I hate to admit it, but I'm 44. And we've seen some tremendous teams, Hoggy, David, over our kind of lifespans. And, you know, if you had, I keep saying this, kind of, if you could write the script, this is an utterly exceptional season, and it'll be very, very hard to keep that standard. But even if the standard falls 10-20%, it's still going to be some standards, and that's the kind of the measure of how good this has been. At the start of the season, the friendlies, I mean, I think we watched them against Lyon and somebody else, that French team they played. I got a strange sense back then that we just looked so solid. We just looked well-oiled. We looked like we were finally fulfilling the kind of the promise that we had shown for periods of time and then fell away. And I think the key thing that's changed this year was the recruitment has been utterly fantastic. I hear people critiquing the recruitment, and we get wee things on Twitter about scores out of 10 and all this for recruitment. I think the recruitment, even in the Mark Allen days, which was kind of hit and miss, and we're probably working with less resources, I think the recruitment throughout the Gerrard period has been probably about as good a ratio of hits against misses as you can get in a realistic scenario. And certainly in the market we're operating in, it's even harder. I think Roof has added goal threat. He's been a genuinely good player in front of goal. And we've had sublime, I mean, I don't need to tell you who, but Davis, for example, McGregor. Davis is like, he's better now than he was when we first got him in 2008. And that defies belief. So, you know, I'm emotional when I talk about this season. It's really one of the moments where I think we should stop and just smell the roses, because it's a high water mark. It's the 55 versus the 10 thing has just made it a fairy tale come true. It's you can't wipe the smile off my face, David, and I know I'm not an exception. I know it's across the whole Rangers support. What we've seen at the weekend, the joyous celebrations, and when we won the league back 9 weeks ago, whenever it was, I don't think the Gerrard and his team and the players realise the joy they brought to us.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's been just a fabulous season, Ian. And the great thing about this team is that, you know, you just think that they're getting better, because there's a lot of guys just hitting their peaks in this side.
Oh, there is. I mean, take Alan McGregor, for example. He's I think he'll be going till he's 50 at this rate. But if we can keep the nucleus of the team together, David, in the summer, that's going to be key. I do think we'll lose a couple, and then it's going to be about recruitment. As Andy says, I'm actually not worried about recruitment anymore. How many years did we go through, you know, signing the Phillips, Endrosses and all the rest of it? Now you're expecting us to do well. Predominantly in the last 3 years, the misses have been guys that were shelling out nothing on. So therefore, if it misses, it doesn't actually matter. Whereas the hits are, Christ, Barisic, Goldson, Hilander, Kamara, Aribo, you know, Kent, guys that you'll make a fortune on if they actually go. So that's what our club has to be based on. This season's been phenomenal, utterly phenomenal from start to finish. Andy says it's a high watermark. Yes, it is. It's a high watermark, absolutely. And from where we've been, David, it makes it Hollywood stuff. It's Hollywood blockbuster stuff. You could probably write all this down, the past 10 years, and if it hadn't happened, folk would go, nah, that'll be a pissy version of Shot of Glory. But the players, there's a lot of players in there who do still have probably 2 or 3 years to go until they actually reach their peak. And I'm thinking of Aribo and Kamara and guys like and Hadji that we all seem quite split on, but seems to have found his groove in the middle of the park. Kent, I think, has still got levels to go. So, like I say, you keep those guys if you manage to keep the majority of them. And I do think, like I say, I do think we'll lose 1 or 2, but if you keep the majority of them, they have got levels to go for sure.
The thing is, Hoggy, sorry to interrupt, David, it's the football we've played. It's not just with won games. Some of the football I've watched Rangers play this year, and even in Europe, I can't remember us playing. Remember, we used to get teams coming from Europe, coming to Ibrox, and you think, there's some team move the ball about. Why can we not do that? It's been a pipe dream for us to move the ball like we've moved it this season. It's every aspect of the season this year, from the football played to the style of football, individuals. It's just I can't find a fault.
No, I mean I like the manner of the players as well. That's the thing. There's a wholesomeness to them. There's a togetherness about them that I find very appealing. And on top of that, the football he plays terrific. I mean, it seemed to be that Rangers had their own goal of the season competition going for most of this year. We'll do a full breakdown of the season in later weeks here and keep you entertained through the summer on our flagship free pod, folks. So we won't go into it too much at the moment, game by game or whatever, but almost every week you got something where you went, good Lord. And it was the same Saturday, that the goal that Kamar Roos, first goal with a wonderful bit of wing play by Ryan Kent. Then in the second half, you've got that terrific finish by Jermaine Defoe, which wasn't it just the most Defoe-ish thing you've ever seen? I mean, he's so good at that, even still. And there's just things about them that I love. For instance, in the second half on Saturday, Glenn Kamara got the ball in the Aberdeen half, and he sort of turned around and looked for a pass, so it wasn't on, so he turned round, but then he decided to turn back again, and you heard Alan McGregor shout from the goal, "Stop fucking about!" And I thought, we're 3-0 up in the last game of the season, right? Undefeated, 20 minutes to go. It's absolutely fantastic, the attitude that just permeates that side. And, they definitely deserved all the celebrations that came their way.
Standards and professionalism, David. That's what that is. And that's been sadly lacking at our club on the park since 2012, obviously. Standards and professionalism are back. And you've seen that building over the last 3 years. Steven Gerrard's come in and he's looked to revolutionise the club on and off the park. It's standards every single step of the way. And it's standards, frankly, that we maybe didn't have at times under, say, Walter the first time round. We'd win the league in March and then play the kids for a few weeks while the first team squad basically went on a bender and then come back for the cup final. That's how we managed it back then. But now, there's the oldest guy on the park who probably is, he likes a good bevy himself. He's the one setting the standard from the back all the way out. And we did have 15, 20 minutes in that start of that second half that they should have scored. They missed some awful sitters. Sorted ourselves out, got 2 goals, and in the second half, and we ended up ruthless. I think the word used at the weekend was relentless. I just think we're ruthless at times. And like I say, for me, it's all down to the manager, the standards, the professionalism, and I love to see it. I absolutely love to see it. I love to see every single one of them still bursting their arse in the final few minutes of that game. That goal that Jermaine Defoe scored, by the way, his first touch is brilliant, and then it's a dummy.
It's a wee delay.
And it's a dummy, and 2 Aberdeen players are then on their arse.
Yeah. And the space appears, yeah.
It's just sublime.
Yeah, it's just, he's so good at that. And, age is just a number. And guys like him, Stephen Davis and Alan McGregor have proven that. And of course, Andy, Stephen Davis was named as the Football Writers Player of the Year That came on the back of Alan McGregor being named the Scottish Professional Football League Player of the Year, and then James Tavernier was named the PFA Players of the Year. How big a part of those three played in the campaign?
I think McGregor, Goldson, Davis, and Tavernier. Basically, you're talking about standards there, Hoggy, which is absolutely correct. The other word I would put in the mix there is desire. You've got to have desire, and unfortunately, as many football supporters find, desire's got to come within. You can't get a manager to put desire in the player. I think what we've had is a perfect chemistry where they four players, for example, have shown that the desire, the levels that are needed, and everybody has responded to the leadership that we've had from not only Gerrard, but mostly Gerrard as a obviously the talisman, but his backroom staff. You just need to look at wee Colshaw and McAllister and Beale and the joy that they get for watching us score a goal. So, I mean, Davis, Tavernier, Goldson, McGregor, it's no coincidence that the four of them are splitting the various Player of the Year awards. For me personally, I thought Tavernier shaded it because at the key critical point of the season, which was the kind of spine of the season between October to February, Tavernier was just out of this world, and for that kind of tipped it for me. He was really leading the whole team for right back. But McGregor, I mean, I was talking to somebody today, and we're talking about points in the season. That save against Griffiths, probably no exaggeration to say that's a season-turning save. Because if that goes in, they win that game, they get a bit of momentum. As Gerrard alluded to at the weekend in his press conference when he said that was a great game to win without playing well, that's the inches that we're dealing with here that are gradually just saw us go away in the distance away from Celtic. And a special word for Goldson as well, because we talk about Scottish football. I remember Dado Purcell saying that one game in Scottish football is worth two in France in terms of the toll it takes in your body. There he's played every single minute, and he's not really put a fit rang the whole season. He's been the kind of Van Dijk, if you want to make that comparison. I think if we'd lost Goldson for any period of time in the season, he's the one player that I don't think we could have replaced adequately from the squad. He's been absolutely outstanding, and very much like Tavernier, he's came through a couple of years where we've had supporters kind of saying he's not good enough. Totally blown away. And Davis, I mentioned there he's better now than he was then in 2008. He's like our Pirlo. that's what he's like. He's the brain of the team, and he is one guy that we will find extremely hard to replace when the sad day comes that he says that's it, because he's a special footballer, and just that economy of movement, just the way he does things, and he's reading the games utterly sublime. He's I just can't find the words to describe how good he's been this season.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think of the four players that most people had in line for the Player of the Year, I would say that Davis is the brain of the side, Tav is the soul of the side, McGregor is the heart of the side, and Goldson's the warrior body of the side. He's such a good organiser, and he's somebody who has absolutely led, and to play every minute is just unbelievable, and a testament to his form, his professionalism, his fitness, everything. He's been truly wonderful this season. Tav's contribution has been spectacular, and on guys like Tav and Alfie and Ryan Jack, who obviously couldn't play on Saturday but was there on the celebrations, Ian, how wonderful was it to see those guys, after everything they've been through, after being there before Gerrard and all the shite that we went through, for them to be there to pick that trophy up and get their winner's medal, and you could see what it meant to them. I mean, Tav slept with the trophy.
Yeah, and Adam was annoyed it wasn't him.
And let's hope it's not a one night stand.
Indeed, that's I want that to be a marriage forever. For Tav, Ryan Jack, and Alfredo Morelos, this has got to be a dream come true. Those guys have got balls the size of boulders, David, really, because we've seen players come to Ibrox, the shirt being too heavy, and off they go. And there was an awful lot of players like that in the Mark Warburton era. And Tav's obviously come through that. And even guys like Joey Barton come up here, Billy Big Balls, and then sloped off down the road as fast as he could. There was lots and lots of them. But this is Tav, Ryan Jack, and Alfredo Morelos, who were roundly ridiculed, who were who heavily criticised by us, let's face it, David, and ridiculed by Celtic fans and all the rest of it when they're coming on and they're getting trounced. We all saw it, we all heard it, we've all criticised, and those guys have stayed and they've come through the journey and they're out the other side. And do you know what? The three of those guys have performed, Tav especially this season, monumental season that guy's had. Become the player that he is versus the player that arrived or the player who, couldn't defend the back post in February 2017. That's an amazing turnaround for Ryan Jack, who was getting sent off, I think, 1 in every 3 games in his first season, to become Steven Gerrard's boy, effectively, is incredible. And Alfredo Morelos signed for us. He was a wee, slight, skinny guy, Colombian, coming from a team in Finland to come to one of the biggest clubs in the world. He's bulked up. Most of it, I think, is muscle, and players are just bouncing off him now. He doesn't always get it right. We know that. But I think his performances this season versus some of the petulance we've seen in previous seasons, David, of less selfishness. There's happy to come deep, happy to link the play. Of course, his wee torn face is always there or thereabouts, but he's a proper team player now. And we couldn't always say that about him. So for those guys to go through their own personal journeys and go with us on our journey to complete it, they loved it at the weekend, and they absolutely deserve every single minute.
What does it mean to us? We've talked about the players and we've talked about the staff at the club, and you saw Jimmy Bell and Douglas Park and John Bennett, and they were all having, obviously very emotional and having a whale of a time, and that's fair enough. They're the ones who've achieved it. We get this, but what does it mean to us, Andy, this year of all years, where we've all been going through this hell on earth in our own personal lives, and then Rangers fans have been in our own special kind of hell for the last 10 years as we've witnessed what's happened to our club. What does this trophy, this title, everything about it mean to you?
So we've all got our personal story, we've all got our personal angle in this, and I mean, I can only, it's quite emotional, but when we went down, I saw friends, or folk I thought were friends, gleefully endorse, encourage that something that's been a thread through my family for generations, and hundreds of thousands of families in Scotland, around the world's families, they were quite happy to see that get ripped away. They were quite happy to see that ridicule. I attended matches, obviously. I felt I was a Rangers supporter. I was proud to be a Rangers supporter. I redoubled my support. I've got to be honest. Me and my pal Scott, we never said it, we never spoke the words, but we knew we weren't going to miss a game until this day. And I went all around Scotland, been to every ground. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I know we talk about the journey, and I hate that phrase, the journey, because it makes it sound like some kind of fucking Disney film or something. But it was. I think we can hold our heads up high because nobody will ever say we never took our medicine. We could have fudged it and went into the first division, which is what I think Celtic and a lot of the teams wanted to happen. Certainly the TV companies wanted to happen. I kind of agreed with that at the time because I thought we were going to get decimated. So things like the youth structure would die, stuff like that. But we went to the bottom. I feel we paid our penance. I think the rest of Scottish football kind of benefited from us. I think I look at the rest of Scottish football differently than I did before it. I'm far more open-minded in terms of the wee teams, the wee diddy clubs, as I used to say. And to get to this point now, there is a feeling of retribution. There is a feeling of revenge, but it's not as strong as I thought, because it's just a feeling of pride, and that is where I think we've differentiated ourselves as a support. That we've shown that we love our club, and that's it. Whereas I think what's been demonstrated over the last 10 years is there's a lot of supposed football supporters. They hate Rangers more than they love their own club, and they would happily have seen their clubs suffer, go close to the edge in terms of even staying in existence, to see us get booted and booted and booted. So I'm really emotional there, I've got to be honest, and I'm not going to say I've lost folk during the period of time, because everybody loses folk over a 10-year period, but you do think that it's kind of cathartic that we've come and we've stopped this 10 in a row, because it would have been the kind of nail in the coffin, but it would have been the kind of eternal signpost of this incredibly bad period of time. And we have washed it away. I can watch videos of us getting beat 5-0 at Parkhead or 4-0 or whatever when they won the league, and I was there, and I remember the feeling, and you're utterly on the floor. I can watch that now because it's been washed away, because it means nothing to them anymore. I mean, quadruple trebles are a small solace to them now, and that sounds ridiculous. We have utterly exorcised every demon that we have had in the last 10 years, and it's just a case now of continuing and doing what we do best. As I say, smell the roses. Gerrard might not be here forever. We move on, everything else. But see, in this moment in time, I simply could not have written this script if you'd said to me 10 years ago, how would you like this to play out, Andy? I couldn't have written this. And the feelings I felt this year, sitting in the house watching Rangers on the telly, right? So apart from anything else, if you said to me, Andy, you've got to watch Rangers on the telly for a year, I'd be like, fuck off, I can't do that, right? And just for the point of view that you like to be in the ground, you like to be close to the club and the supporters and your fellow fans and your family that attend with you. The fact that this has been one of the best years of my life because of Rangers. So I'm pretty sure I'm not alone. I'm pretty sure I'm not alone in feeling that.
Yeah, I don't know what it would have been like going through this last year, watching them head towards 10 in a row. I genuinely don't. And that's why I'm so grateful to the side and to the manager and to the staff for preventing it. But more importantly, Ian, yes, I didn't really enjoy, but we've had so many kicks like that it just was another one. But I needed it for me. We needed it for us, that we needed to see our team returned. We needed something to reward all that faith, as Andy says, because that's all it was. It was keeping us going sometimes, was just sheer faith that one day it will turn around. And that is why I think Saturday felt very much, he mentioned there the word journey. I would use the word sentence, because that's what it felt like. But Saturday, it really felt like Rangers FC are back where they belong.
Yeah, I mean, I've used the words "the journey."
It's good shorthand.
It is.
It's good shorthand. It's a lot better than saying, when these bastards that ran us into the ground allowed other bastards to do, you could go on a bit.
I think we know what the journey or the sentence means. And we kidded ourselves on, David, at the start of it. We tried to kid others on that this is fun. It wasn't. It was shite. And it got worse. It got worse as the years went on and as the corporate crooks came and went and all the rest of it. And we're back to what we said earlier. We've got a guy in the door who isn't a Rangers fan. He's from another big footballing city, and he's come in and he's revitalised us completely. And you're right, we needed this. And it's, I think I spoke to you at the weekend, David, when I said 10 years ago on Saturday, I saw you outside Rugby Park, you and Big Scott, with and there was myself and Emily, and Emily's only 10. And all of a sudden now it's taken 10 years and we're back at the summit. Both my sons have never, ever seen us win a league. They've never seen us lifting the SPFL Premiership trophy. And they have now. And I think because of that, my overarching emotion on Saturday was pride. Pride watching those two wee boys wrapped up completely in the TV. Wrapped up watching James Tavernier. They were on... We ran a live hamper show across Zoom on Friday night, raising money for two different charities. And they both came into the room while we were live on screen. And they both come on and told us that their favourite player is Joe Aribo, largely because this season they've been fortunate enough, because of the work that we've done, David, to meet Joe Aribo face to face over Zoom or over Teams or whatever it was. Incidentally, one of the nicest young men you will ever speak to in your life. He was sensational with those kids. And seeing those boys, like I say, watch James Tavernier lift the trophy, and you could see the immense pride in them. That did it for me. But it's been a hell of a long time in coming, and the journey wasn't fun. The journey was arduous, and I've taken to calling now, David, the start of the new beginning.
Yeah, it was hard to put into words what it was like. I mean, I was fortunate enough to be there, and just to be part of it was incredible, and just to have been able to be there and in a small way represent Rangers fans in there was something that I'll never forget. And we've been doing this for a long time on Heart and Hand, and we'll continue to, and things will get a wee bit more back to normal, I hope. It won't be the last. This Rangers team will win more trophies and things will go back, but we must never forget what happened, and we must never forget everything that we went through. And I think that you both touched on something key there, which is I think we've all found a new appreciation of our side over the last few years, and I think of each other as well. That's very special, and it's clear from what we've seen today we're going to need it. But I just really do think that the future is incredibly exciting for our club. And I think that we're all in a position now of being much more united to face any challenges that come our way. I also think that we can all breathe a wee bit now. We needed that trophy. Hopefully next season we'll start to get fans back into the ground and normality will return, not just to us, but to society in general, and everyone will be able to get together and, as you said, Andy, pay homage to what has been a very special team.
I think the first game, but it's a shame. I don't think we're going to go to a full house, because in your mind you visualise the team coming out in the full Ibrox, paying the appreciation. It's not going to be that, I don't think. It should be, but that's another podcast altogether. But we're going to have a reduced capacity probably by the time the season gets near. But things have kept us going through the years. Every one of us has had a different visualisation of where we see it going, what we see happening, that trophy getting lifted, who was going to lift it, if it would ever happen again. But as you say, the whole club has been transformed. And, I would never ever say that it was all worth it in the end. You look at the boardroom, you look at the forward-looking football structure that we've always wanted, Hoggy, Davey, the follow fanzine in the 80s and the 90s, always talking about this kind of fabled structure and looking at foreign shores for it. We've got that now. We actually are the envy of Celtic and other teams that are of our size. So there's just this overarching standard professionalism, pride in ourselves. We know who we are now. I think for a lot of years, Rangers as a club didn't really know who they are. We know exactly who we are now. And the other thing I would say that's come through this period is the youth we've had. And I'm talking about in the stands. I'm not talking about Union Bears per se here, but there is a vibrancy to our support now. And whether that was caused by the fact that Rangers became more accessible because of cheaper ticket prices, less season tickets per se, I don't know. But something's happened. We've got when you look down south at Man City win the league, and you look at us, we are different. We are a different proposition altogether as a football club and as a support. We've always thought it, but we can see that. There's proof. It's there. You can touch it. So you know, I'm just so relieved to be at this point. I'm delighted to be on Heart and Hand to get the opportunity to kind of verbalise it, because I'm quite sure there's loads of fans that are sitting there bursting to say, this is how I feel. Well, this is how I feel.
Well, they've always got a chance to do that over at the Heart and Hand podcast on Patreon. Just visit there for lots more Rangers content from all of us. And if you fancy having a go yourself, then absolutely. The door is always open to anyone who wants to contribute. But yeah, every one of those young supporters has been tested in battle in a way that my generation wasn't. You know, I grew up mainly Sooners, and my God, I mean, a couple of dodgy years when I first started going, but even the 9 in a row, the first one from Celtic, that, to be honest, you know, there was still a European trophy one in there. Nobody went through what the kids growing up watching Rangers play Annan and Elgin were going through, with all of us wittering on about what it'd been like, and they're going, well, when do I get to get a part of it? So this is them getting their due reward, and in a way they deserve it almost more than anyone, really, and we all deserve it. But for those kids who that's their first real memory of seeing Rangers win a proper trophy, then that just fills my heart with joy. Anyway, that will do us this week here on Heart and Hand. My thanks to my two guests, Ian Hogg.
Pleasure, mate.
Andy McGowan.
I'm dabbing away the tears from my eyes right now.
I thought you would just be dabbing in general.
I've heard about that phenomenon. That was last year.
Well, I know I'm not down with a kid like you are, Andy. That's, you know, I'm an old fuddy-duddy, whereas you've got, you know, you're a capo. You've got a megaphone. I saw the photo, so you know, you've got all that going on. Thanks to our executive producers in London, Mike Lee and Paul Miles. We will be back next week where we'll have a look at the season as a whole. So, as I say, if you want to hear more from us, head over to patreon.com/Heart and Hand. But if not, I will speak to you again this time next week. And remember, we are invincible. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.